眩しくて戻らない瞬間もう誰にも奪わせないそんな世界から得るためガブガブガブガブエナジーガブ
What you can expect for Avatar 2025 Sound Benders. Now, I know a lot of you will be like, whoa, Sound Benders? That sounds awesome. What is that though? How does that come to be? Well, first I'm going to need you to like, share, subscribe, and follow. And now I'm going to tell you. In this new cyberpunky future that the creators of Avatar envisions the new Avatar taking place in, airbenders would have evolved, and a couple of them will have stepped away from the peaceful monk traditions of old, fully joining this futuristic society instead of keeping their distance, and will have implanted themselves into various groups of society in this futuristic time. And I believe soundbending will be a new subset of airbending that will be developed by this new subset of airbenders. But of course, if y'all know your history or have read any of the Avatar books, specifically the Yang-Chen novels, then you would know that Avatar Yang-Chen utilized a form of sound bending called a sonic scream, where through screaming in secluded beaches to vent out her hidden and held-in anger, she inadvertently, utilizing her airbending powers, strengthened her lungs to the point where each time she screamed, it got stronger and more powerful, to the point of parting the oceans and crushing rocks, anything that stood in the way of her bellowing sonic yell. And this is because sound is carried by air, so air can manipulate sound as well. So of course, a master airbender can not only learn to utilize this, but develop it even further. And I equate this new subset to firebenders learning how to combustion bend, and just how hard it would be to become a combustion bender, as 1 out of 100 firebenders can actually become so without dying. And just how combustion bending is used for assassination, I could see New Age airbenders who distance themselves from the path of peace and monk traditions, seeing the potential for this new destructive power as a way for them to gain strength and status, maybe using it to become assassins themselves or high-ranking soldiers in armies. And before any of y'all say there's no way any airbender would walk down that path, and even excluding him, in the new Reckoning of Roku novels, there have been shown airbenders who utilize their airbending in assassination type ways, brutally killing their opposition. So it wouldn't really be anything new. And I'm also saying that sound bending to utilize sonic screams to destroy your enemies as well as crush any obstacle in your way would just be the start of it, since I could also see them utilizing sound bending to protect themselves within a sound barrier, kind of acting like a force field type thing that would destroy anything that comes in contact with it. I could also see them using it to convey or deliver messages over long distances, like saying a secret message in a riddle type format and utilizing sound bending to spread it throughout an entire city, so only that the person that the message is meant for is able to encode it. I think that would be really cool and show airbending in a new way, especially if these new cyberpunky airbenders aren't as spiritual as the traditional monk type ones. Because there could be a real conflict there with the monk type airbender staying away from soundbending, seeing its destructive capability and temptatious power, while the new age airbenders would strive to achieve it regardless of how deadly it would be to learn it. Avatar 2025, what can you expect? Cyborg fire benders. What the hell do I mean by that? Well, keep watching, I'ma tell ya. Hi you, King here. And we all know that technology in the Avatar world advances dramatically each time the four nations decide, collaboration is better than just throwing all-out hands with one another. And we've had some geniuses, some top brain geniuses in the Avatar world that each time they invent something new, it drastically changes the overall history of the verse, modernizing it and innovating it towards the future. Tio's dad was one with his creations of air blimps and subs, leading to the development of airships and military submarines. Varric was another with his many inventions powered by spirit vines. And even Asami and her father were extremely intelligent, making all those different types of mech suits. And each time these geniuses are allowed to play in the Avatar world, they get to make something that allows non-benders to get to play with the big boys. I'm talking about powerful benders being beaten by non-benders using either mech suits or some other form of technology. And I believe in a cyberpunky world that the creators of Avatar said that the new Avatar story will most likely take place in, that it would be the perfect setting for cyborg technology. So here's my thoughts on how the cyborg technology could look, as well as what it could do and the type of story that could come about from it. First up, I believe the technology will be mainly made for military use and guard services. And the easiest type of benders they would find to be able to emulate with the technology would be firebenders. Because all these geniuses would have to do is create technological prosthetic limbs that are connected to nerve tissues that responds to the electrical messages that are sent through them from the brain that tells these new mechanical arms and legs to move like organic ones. And these mechanical arms and legs will have to be able to produce flames to emulate firebenders shooting out fire from their own limbs. And firebenders can generate and redirect lightning, so it shouldn't be that much of an issue to have the arms have that functionality as well, to be able to generate electricity and shoot it out or discharge it, as well as absorb it to power the technological and mechanical systems. And I would imagine that the cyborg limbs and parts would have coolant systems that would keep the organic flesh and body parts from overheating, since these aren't natural born firebenders with immunity to heat, while also having the limbs and parts be colored red to categorize them as cyborg firebenders. With a major pro for the story of having a bunch of cyborg firebenders be that you would have a bunch of non-benders who are jealous of the power that benders have naturally, and they would take up a deal to give them that power, turning themselves into cyborgs. So even though they'll be happy that they have the power now, they'll be under the full control of the people who gave it to them. And they will either be a major threat or a bunch of fodder for the main characters. Because just like in One Piece, just like in Star Wars, just like in any universe of an epic show, you need your enemies to be a problem. You need them to be able to throw numbers upon numbers at your main characters just to show how good they are under pressure. And if the Fire Nation taught us anything, it is that fire can be dangerous and weaponized. And the cyborg firebenders could give old Avatar fans powerful nostalgia, as they would remind them how the story began when the Fire Nation attacked. They'll be able to fly like firebenders do, shoot fireballs. If they have a mechanical cyborg mouth, they'll be able to breathe fire. And because of their coolant system, they'll have some form of protection against extreme heat as well, with their only primary weakness being that they won't be able to actually bend fire like firebenders. They won't be able to control it. Also, I thought it'd be stoic if the procedure to turn yourself into a cyborg was called metallizing, so that the company behind the cyborg firebenders could be called Metallized Movement, like Metal Eyes Movement, like a double entendre. You know, I thought it'd be cool. What to expect for Avatar 2025? Puppet benders. Okay. Now y'all might be saying, okay, he's gone too far on this one, but honestly, I haven't gone far enough. Just hear me out. Puppet benders will be a subset of earthbenders created by a weaker group of earthbenders that, instead of bending the earth around them, simply bends clay that has been fashioned into a puppet for their usage. You see, not everyone can be good at everything, and just how there are people in the Avatar world who aren't as good at hunting or fishing as others are, there will be benders who aren't as good at bending their elements as other benders are. But because they still retain the ability to bend, they find ways around it. Hence, in this example, puppet bending. By fashioning clay, which is found in the natural world and can be bent by earthbenders because it is an earth mineral, into puppets, they then train themselves to be able to fully utilize these clay puppets through earthbending. So even though they aren't able to summon earth pillars or stone walls out of the ground or move and control heavy giant boulders without touching them, they still are able to prove themselves a threat to their enemies. Because I could see them filling these clay puppets with poison-tipped daggers, ropes, nets, poisonous gas, smoke, swarm of deadly bees, even flash bombs. Basically utilizing the entire clay puppet as an assassination type weapon to be utilized by, obviously, earthbending assassins. And I could see these earthbending assassins being members of the new iteration of Dia Lee, who serves whoever is the current ruler of the Earth Kingdom. And finally, I can also see these earthbending assassin-trained puppet benders being able to rival benders or cyborg benders via integrating the newest forms of technology into their clay puppets to further aid them on their assassin missions. All of that to simply say puppet benders may sound like it, but they would be the furthest thing from a joke. They would be the type of people you would underestimate until they would got so close before you even had a chance to regret it. What to expect for Avatar 2025? Bone Benders. Now, y'all might be staring at this video crazy thinking like, is this another bloodbending situation but for earthbenders? And yeah, it very well might be, because in this new cyberpunky generation that the creators of Avatar says that the new iteration of Avatar is going to be placed in, where the human anatomy is going to be pushed to its limits with cybernetic integration, why not get bone bending involved in it? I always figured that waterbenders were too OP because of their access to the ultimate forbidding bending type, bloodbending. And yeah, it has nerfs such as the rule stating that waterbenders need the full moon out to even be able to bloodbend, and that the rare few that can do it without the full moon are part of a rare genetic bloodline of bloodbenders that can psychically bloodbend, which the infamous Amon comes from. But that's still too OP that if you and your crew just happen to run into a bloodbender during the full moon, then that's basically it for you and your squad, regardless of what type of bender they are, unless they are also a bloodbender. So yeah, I figure, hey, let's even up the board by allowing earthbenders access to such a forbidden bending type. But you might be asking yourself, how would earthbenders bend bone? Well, here's a geology class for you. Calcium is a type of earth material. It is an alkaline earth mineral that is the 5th most abundant element in the earth's crust and the 3rd most abundant metal besides iron and aluminum. So guess what that means? Simply put, earthbenders can bend the hell out of it. But guess what? The human body is naturally protected by chi fields. It is the thing that protects a person's body from a bender being able to bend the elements within them. And it is the same reason why waterbenders can't simply bend blood on the regular without the power boost of a full moon. So even though bone benders could exist, I couldn't see earthbenders controlling a person's body the same way bloodbenders could without a similar sufficient power boost. And it is said that earthbenders can get such a power boost from a natural earthquake, but those are rare. As rare as just finding bones laying about just waiting for you to bend them, unless they're buried fossils from an old dead beast or skeletons from a nearby graveyard. Yeah, that's right. I'm saying if they incorporate bone benders into the new Avatar series, it could get creepy and scary real quick, as they would be able to bend the fossils of, let's say, a dead dragon, so making it seems to their enemies that they're being attacked by a ghostly bone dragon. And they'll be able to do the same thing with all the various fossils of the various beasts of the Avatar world, whether it's flying bisons or badger moles. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And it could create such a unique, awesome character type. I mean, a goth-like earthbender that can bend bones, that can turn basically any graveyard they step upon into an undead army to aid whatever their cause is. Honestly, it writes itself, and with a lot of Avatar fans grown up and being adults, you would want the story to be more mature and have more mature bending types, and what's more rated M than bone bending? Plus, for a fun tidbit for a filler episode or whatnot, whenever they're not bending bones, they could bend seashells because shells are also made out of calcium. And the bone bending ability could be utilized by a singular individual who could have created and developed the ability because they just love the concept of graves and controlling the power of the dead. And they could be a major antagonist to the new Avatar as they go around collecting bones and fossils to grow their army of the dead. Iron Sand Benders. What are they? Well, in this video, I'll tell you what they are, how they'll come to be, and how they'll affect the overall story of Avatar 2025. You see, Iron Sand Benders will be a new subset of benders that will be derived from metal benders who were derived from earth benders. You see, with metal benders bending the earth within the metal, it's what allowed them to develop the art of metal bending. You see, being originated from Toph, it was cultivated by one of her daughters, leading towards the creation of the city of Zaofu, where earthbenders could go to become metal benders. And then there are sand benders who bend the smallest particles of earth. Like water benders, they let the earth flow through sand and control that flow. But because of that similarity to water bending, it is the most difficult bending style for earthbenders. And it is because so many things are made out of the earth that it makes sense that there are so many subsets of earthbending. But what is iron sand bending and how could it be developed? Well, in this new cyberpunky era, I would imagine that there would be a lot of innovations and advancements with non-benders and benders working to improve technology and better understand their surroundings and environment and the world that they live in. And I can imagine the city of Zaofu being the lead in that innovation because of their origin in artistic expression as well as mastery over metal bending. And I can see them being similar to Wakanda, the city of the future in Marvel Comics, developing both iron sand and iron sand bending from experimentation on how metal bending can be further improved. And this could be a game changer when it comes to combat, because I can see them rocking iron sand in both clothing and arsenal, carrying that heavy load around because earthbenders are naturally stronger than non-benders and other benders, and being able to manipulate the iron sand around them into various forms and constructs that they can use for both defense and offense, like creating giant hands to both crush or slap their enemies around. I could also see them creating various weapons out of the iron sand, and it would just be similar to the capabilities of a waterbender, but be made out of harder, tougher stuff. But there's still the difficulties of earthbenders manipulating sand-like elements because of how similar sand is to water and waterbending. And it is because of that problem is where science and technology comes into play. Because I can see the people of this cyberpunk Zaofu implementing ferromagnetic metals and materials into both their technology and iron sand, to use magnetism to help them better manipulate the iron sand and give them greater ease at bending it. And I can see them reconstructing Zaofu out of ferromagnetic metals and then covering it with iron sand to give iron sand benders the possibility of being able to control the city and manipulate it however they want, whenever they want, allowing them to create passageways and roads and create different types of architecture in whichever way, whenever, the way they did with old Zaofu, but have an even easier time now that everything is more sand-like. And again, this would allow the cyberpunk Zaofu to truly be the city of the future, as regardless of how advanced technology is everywhere in the future of the Avatar world, Zaofu, this new Zaofu, will truly be able to do whatever they want through the manipulation of iron sand and the development of this new subset of bending, iron sand bending. As for how it could affect the overall story, well, for one, I could see the new Avatar, Avatar 2025, being an iron sand bender. Maybe in the beginning he has difficulties learning the other three bending, but it's okay because he has mastery over this new unique style of bending, iron sand bending, where in a cyberpunky future, that could really get you far because most things would be made out of metal. And maybe through the Avatar state, he could turn any metallic material into iron sand. It would be really savage and cool. What can you expect for Avatar 2025 Blue Demon Gang? You might be asking yourself, what the hell is that? Well, I imagine in the cyberpunky era of Avatar, which the creators have talked about the new Avatar taking place in, that there will be a group comprised primarily of blue firebenders, and that they will take on the iconography and theming of the blue spirit, which they got the idea for from an old Fire Nation myth started up by the actions of Zuko in his younger days, when he from time to time acted as a blue spirit. But how could such a gang come together, and for what reason? Well, stay tuned for that, because I'm about to tell you. But first, I'd be beside myself if I didn't tell you to like, share, subscribe, and follow on this video, and ring that notification bell so you know when more Avatar 2025 videos come out. But with that out of the way, let me tell you how this group of blue firebenders could come together. First off, let me start by saying Azula was a rare prodigy. Cause as we learn from the Reckoning of Roku novels, it is possible for firebenders of all kinds to learn how to make and bend blue fire. But it is extremely hard to learn how to do so because of how hot blue fire burns and how powerful it is naturally. But regardless, it still remains possible for a firebender to train and learn how to do so. It was just easier for Azula because she was a prodigy and was trained by the best of the best, being a Fire Nation princess. But I can imagine in this new era, with a bunch of cyborg firebenders being made, that the natural firebenders would see this as a threat and would train themselves up to such heights so that they wouldn't be overcome by this new generation of cyborg benders. That this new generation of firebenders would become so powerful and so prodigious in their skill set that they would start being able to produce blue flames and bend them like Azula. And with gaining the desire and obsession to fight against the corrupt system that's creating all of these artificial benders, that this would bring them together to create the Blue Demon Gang, inspired by the mythos of the Blue Spirit, with their masks and suits heavily paying homage to him. And I could see them as a radical group that could sometimes ally with the new Team Avatar if their goals align, or act as an antagonist force if their goals don't align. But either way sets up for great arcs and storytelling. What to expect for Avatar 2025 Firework Bender. You see, because of artificial firebenders, it opens up the possibilities for a super unique type of bending that natural firebenders most likely wouldn't be able to do unless they were able to manipulate rainbow fire. You see, I think it would be cool if a non-bender became an artificial bender, but decided to tweak her tech so that she would be able to produce fireworks instead of regular fire. And this character could be very creative and intelligent while also having a whimsical, unpredictable side to her that makes her that much more fun. And I could see said character joining the new Team Avatar. Maybe she could have a clown-like aesthetic to her look, you know, because of how creative and whimsical she is. Or maybe she could have a Japanese festival-like Komodo clothing style that she wears to kind of like, you know, symbolize her abilities as a firework bender. These are just some thoughts and ideas that I'm throwing about, but I think firework bending would be amazing. Though as a cyborg bender, she wouldn't actually be able to control them like a natural bender would, but through pyrotechnics, she'll be able to get them to do what she wants and use them in a variety of different ways. So that's all I have to say about this. If you want to check out more Avatar 2025 videos, then go check out my YouTube playlist where I have videos on sound benders, or even on a group of blue firebenders that I dubbed the Blue Demon Gang. If that has piqued your curiosity and you want to know more about those types of benders, then go watch those videos in full. Comment down your thoughts below about this video, as well as ring that notification bell so you know when videos like this drop, and more than anything, like, share, subscribe, and follow. Thank you, and stay great. Light benders. But What are they? Where do they come from? And how will they affect the overall story in Avatar 2025? Glad you asked, because I'm here to tell you. Hi you, King here, and Lightbenders will be a subset of Firebenders. It'll be a new subset of bending that Firebenders will unlock in this new cyberpunky era. As we know, Firebenders are the only benders capable of producing their own elements to bend. They do this by manipulating the energy within themselves and then letting it out. They also do this when they separate the positive and negative electrons within their bodies and then have them smashing back together to generate lightning. And they also do this when they channel all their chi into their forehead to superheat the surrounding air and release a beam of explosive energy at their enemies for combustion bending. All of this to say, Firebenders aren't new to the idea of manipulating energy through their firebending. So I figured they have the potential to light bend, since light is made out of photons and plasma that they can control through their firebending. And with gaining newfound control over this element, they can unlock a whole roster of abilities that can prove great in battle as well as in a lot of other different ways. One of which, to match this new cyberpunky era, could be making holograms, as through manipulating light they can create 3D images out of light to fool the eye. And things such as LED hologram fans in the real world are capable of doing such things, so imagine what a light bender could do in the Avatar world. They could create a giant image of a robot or an image of one of the past avatars like Korra to strike the fear of God into their enemies. And depending on how good they are at light bending, make it appear as if they have an entire army of chi blockers or benders ready to strike at their beck and call. Which are all good for illusionary tricks and manipulating your foes, but they'll also have combative abilities for the light bending as well, such as laser beams that they can shoot out of their fingertips that incinerates through anything it comes in contact with, or generate photonic light orbs around themselves that can either become as bright as the sun, blinding any enemies around them, or have the light orbs float around themselves, acting as a defense against any enemy trying to come in close for a hand-to-hand combat. They could also simply have their bodies generate the light to make it extremely hard for chi blockers to come in and try to block their bending. Basically, through this new subset of bending, Firebenders will be able to gain a whole plethora of light-based attacks and abilities. But in this new Avatar 2025 series, I imagine it won't be a whole group of Firebenders that gain this new subset of bending power. For you see, I believe this new light bending power will only be held by a certain few of Firebenders. A family that would have unlocked this new ability after Korra's era, and would have kept it hush-hush, only letting those within the family know the secrets of light bending. As for how this would affect the story, I believe this family would have created a company surrounding hologram technology that they would have created through their newfound ability to light bend, using the hologram technology for both entertainment and visual art purposes, and creating a family fortune from it. Only people part of this family will know how to light bend, and I believe one of these light benders will go and join the Avatar to aid them on their quest to save the world from whatever is ailing it. Comment down your thoughts, ring that notification bell, and like, share, subscribe, and follow at Theory Kingdom.
眩しくて戻らない瞬間も